Hello, Howard. How are you? Joshua, welcome. If whoever else is there, just roll call as usual, so we can give you a shout out and a welcome. Jason, welcome. Leon, welcome, sir. As usual, respect and thanks for your services. Stay safe out there, brethren. Lushane, good night. Blessings. Welcome again. Good to see the familiar faces. Remember to share. I think I shared it amongst all the groups already, but if you have a group that would want to hear about this, or if you know somebody who's trying to get in to the business and they're not sure of what their approach should be, this is the iGoat chat that I'm gonna touch on starting out, established, expansion, all that stuff from our perspective, our research, our experiences. Mr. Makuk, what's going on, boss? Hanif, top of the evening, sir. Welcome. Let's try to get this number up to like 20 people. I think our core um, audience and fan base or family, I like to call it family. I think we're around 35 with people that's always with us, and we really appreciate every single one of them. I think the after viewership, goes up in the hundreds, but on the live, we have a core set of people that just tune in and we have a good discussion. Brian, welcome. Good to see you. Jay, welcome, sir. So, if you know somebody who's trying to get in, is thinking about it, or they just started and trying to figure out how they deal with the housing situation, this is a good one. I'm gonna get into it. Big up my mom, Barbara, Babs, as she's affectionately called. Why is she calling me Mr. Hammond? Trudy is in the background. She's here doing the production, so the producing on the back in the back end. Randy, welcome. Good to see everyone. Hope everyone had like a blessed week, a productive week. It's been a pretty busy week for me. Unfortunately, I couldn't do the live last week because of travel issues. I don't know if anybody in here has been traveling, especially in North America. It ain't pretty right now. It is not pretty. I don't know. Every airline have their different issues. Every airport have their different issues, but all those issues comes down to one thing: delays and cancellation. And that becomes a nightmare, especially in my business. Time is everything. We're not traveling for fun, we're traveling for work. So, delay a day or a few hours can cost us a lot of money. Um, it's a nightmare. Yeah, Peter, it is an absolute nightmare right now. So, if you're traveling, be patient, give yourself a lot of time, and have contingency plans. Yes, Mario, time is money. Time is money. And this week, it's cost our organization a lot of money to correct things. So, yeah, moving on. Welcome, everybody. And tonight I want to talk about good housing. As the caption says, as the thumbnail said, good housing. Um, Jamaica is a unique place, right? So you have to approach your housing and your facility with that in consideration. I've traveled and seen other good facilities in North America specifically, and it's a different approach when it comes to goat operation that we take in Jamaica. And the number one reason really is pretty larceny, right? So with that in mind, we have to approach our housing with pretty larceny at the forefront of our minds, right? For international viewers, people outside of Jamaica, you have to deal with your housing according to the society you live in, the community you're living. If you live in a community where, you know, livestock theft is not an issue, then you can approach your housing and your facility different. I'm going to focus tonight on our current environment in Jamaica, and I will also touch on the facilities I've seen overseas and their approach internationally, like in the US and Canada. Um, I will touch on that and the differences that I've seen. And I'm sure people see it on YouTube. Like, I'm not talking about things that I'm sure everybody here have seen, watch YouTube videos of farms in South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the US, the UK, wherever they are. And everybody has a slightly different approach. Um, Dave said I should fly Delta. Um, yeah, Delta is expensive, but we'll see how it goes moving forward. So I'll start off with if you're starting in the business, if you're getting in the business and just starting, what should be your approach? If you're starting in Jamaica specifically, what should be your approach? In my opinion, knowing that pretty larceny is the number one concern is your security, right? So you should think about how do you secure your investment first. What structures, what security apparatus you should put in place to protect your investment. And you could take many different approach, right? But in my opinion, you should always consult with a security expert. Consult with somebody who understand what it takes to keep these people out. What are the factors you should think about? Because there are factors like this, the professionals know what they need to put in place to deter people from trying. You shouldn't take the approach of trying to catch somebody because then you have problems to solve after you catch them. You should take the approach of keeping them out. You don't want them to try. You don't want them to think about your facility. Deterrence is the name of the game. Because if you say, okay, yeah, I'm just going to set up some trap or something that when they come in, I catch them. No, it's the wrong approach because then you got to solve other problems. You have to get into paperwork with the authorities. You got to chop up a man. You got to do whatever you got to do when you catch them. You know, what they call it, street justice. You know what I mean? It becomes more and more problems that you have to deal with if you take the approach of catching them on your property. You don't want them on the property. You don't want them beyond that fence. So you should take the approach of just keeping them out. Deterrence. What do you use in your security system to keep them out? See, Leon says, yeah, and Leon is a law enforcement officer. Onion theory, create layers in your security apparel. Yeah. So the obvious ones that everybody here should be aware of, is proper fencing, lights, if you can afford cameras, and don't just put up the cameras. You got to let people know they're there. Just put up signs that says, yo, this property is, you know, protected by cameras. Smile, you're on candid camera. And that will be a deterrence. And then dogs. Like, those are the three simple things in Jamaica that keep people away from your property. They don't want to be seen, hence the lights. They don't want to be their pictures or video of them to be captured. That's number two. And they don't like dealing with dogs. They do not like dealing with dogs. Now, Peter suggests the electric fence. I didn't mention the electric fence because electric fence comes in depends on the where your facility is and the ability to use it safely within the parameters of the law, right? Electric fence has to be on the inside of your property. Like you have to have a perimeter fence that keep people out with signage that says stay out. It has to be far enough away from the perimeter fence that if somebody breached the perimeter fence, then your electric fence is protecting specific investments. And if they're that far in on your property, they already violate, and then you're protected by the law. It cannot be your perimeter fence with electricity going through it, because somebody could lean on the fence without the intention of going in, but they get shocked. So you can't do that. It's against the law. And so I don't talk about electric fencing because I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't talk about it as part of security. That's the next level based on your consultation with your specialist, or if you choose to do it, know the law, understand how it can be applied, right? So, those are the three top things you should think about when it comes to securing your investment. If you're going into in Jamaica, if you're going into this, you have to think about security first. Um, G- GG's Goat Galore. That's an interesting name. Um, I'll answer this. Do they still work in the current sky? You have to have a system, a proper system with backup power supply. So that's why I say consult with a specialist or a professional before you engage in that. You have to know what you're doing before you get involved in that. That's why I don't talk about it, because I don't want to be misunderstood. Okay, so those are the three top things when you're getting in. Think about how you secure your investment and apply those three things when you're setting up your security for your investment. The fencing can be, many different way of doing it based on what works in on your property or where you are, right? So I can't suggest a specific fencing or whatever, but you think about what works best for where you are. Um, and then you think about building your good facility. because if your facility is secure, then your mind will be at ease. You will be more comfortable in taking your time and build out your facility. But if you build a facility without securing it, then you'll continuously have setbacks based on theft, vandalism. The list goes on. Theft is the number one thing. Whether they're stealing supplies or they're stealing livestock, theft is the number one thing. Vandalism comes from what we call in Jamaica bad minding. Man, a man may be disgruntled because you did him something or you had a disagreement and he figured the best way to get back at you is to destroy your property or what you're trying to do. So vandalism is also factored in. Tiana. I haven't seen Tiana in a long time. Big up Tiana. Tiana is one of our number one pioneer family member for iGoat Chat and Cabra. Love, good to see her. Bona fide. Yeah, so those are the things. Marvin, respect. And once you have your investment secure, your facilities or the area that you're going to build your facility secure, then you start building. Now, let's get into the meat of this now. So, what is an appropriate or an ideal goat house facility for you? I know you guys see Peter post that video. We had an opportunity to go visit a farm yesterday in southern Ontario, Canada. I came off the road. Peter said, "Yo, go see this farm." Yep, let's go. Was tired, but it's any chance I get to do stuff like that, I jump at it. So we went, and as I said, everywhere you go, different community, different environment, their approach to these things are different. You know, we had a conversation with the folks about their facility, and their biggest concern was their goats going into the neighbor's property. They never talk about theft. Their biggest issue is we have to secure the perimeter because we don't want the goats to go out. You know, neighbors who complain that the goats are on their property. So they have to secure it. They were not concerned about people coming in. They're not concerned about that at all. It's a different society than in Jamaica. Jamaica have it both ways. People are concerned about goats coming and eating their stuff, coming on their property, eating down their garden, eating down their fence, eating their produce, eating their little farm that they got going on. And then you as the owner is concerned about people coming in to take your stuff. So the perimeter fence in Jamaica works both ways. Now, as for the facility, their facility is a different approach from us in Jamaica because their facility is actually similar to what we do at Cabo Ranch, which is a semi-intensive system. The animals go out and graze, and they also feed them hay and grains, right? However, they have to deal with winter. So during the winter time, there's no grazing. But the facility is built in such a way that these animals can easily go out and come back, go grazing, come back. The facility is not, there's no slatted floors. It's actually sand sand, some gravel, and wood chips or sawdust that they put down and put straw on top of it, like in the winter time for the warmth. And in their they call it the barn, and the barn is not insulated at winter time. It's not insulated, so winter time these animals are not in some warm barn. They're dealing with the elements, the cold, not the wind and draft and all that stuff. They're not dealing with that, but it still get cold in there. So these animals are they're definitely hardy animals to deal with the cold, and they just put straw down so the animals can lay on the straw and it's warm, and they just keep building that up. They don't clean it out till the springtime, so they just put fresh straw down. And if you understand how that works, is that the more straw you put down on top of the goats dropping and stuff, there's a certain level of heat that start coming up from that, and the animals will feel warm enough to survive, right? As long as there's no cold wind, that winter wind blowing through on them, freezing them. So when we look at their facility and no slatted floors, it's a barn that they divide up for different reasons, whether it's kidding, secure the bucks, and secure weaners, all that stuff. They don't kid until the springtime, so they don't deal with wintertime kidding. So over the winter, they don't have to deal with young animals, newborns. That's gonna be a problem. They're dealing with animals that can handle the cold. But the facility is not. It's not. I'll use Cabo Ranch for example. It is nowhere close to what we've done, what we've built at Cabo Ranch. The concept, however, is similar because we're utilizing outdoor space for housing animals. We got, as you guys should be aware, we got the maintenance lounge, we got the weaners lounge, and it's just animals that are in production that are in the goat house. So we don't have to deal with winter. So these our maintenance mothers and weaners can be out there 24 hours. They're out there all the time. You know what I mean? They the only thing they have to deal with is rain blowing in if it's raining and windy. So that's the only thing our goats got to deal with. But there's parts of the lounge that they can go to get away from that. Other than that, they're out in the element. They're out there. If it's chilly, they bundle up and get warm. If it's hot, they just drink a lot of water and lounge wherever they want. So in that aspect, it's similar. Now in Jamaica, I know, and it's for various different reasons, people build goat house. The slatted floor thing is a massive, massive um, concept that over the last few years been pushed and pushed and pushed. Now, is it the right way? I wouldn't say yes or no. It all depends on where you live in Jamaica. If you're on the side where we are, the northeast, the east side where we get rain consistently, slatted floor is a must. You need somewhere that the animals can be off the wet ground. You have to get them off the wet ground. If you have a nice shed that water is not going to get in there, it's not going to run through and come down, then you you can do without the slatted floors. However, where we are, that's not going to happen. We're on a slope, and it's just going to come through and get the ground wet. Doesn't matter what we have on the ground, it's going to get wet if it's not if the water, if we start off the ground, really, it's gonna get wet. If you're on the south coast, Clarendon, St. Catherine, um, them sides where it's not a lot of rain, you can get away with not having solid floor. But you, whatever you have down there should be easy to get out the goat droppings on a regular basis, consistently for sanitation. So for me, it's not a yes or no or right or wrong slatted floors. It depends on where you live. It depends on where you're building your facility. You always got to take in consideration the elements you're dealing with. Yeah, see, Darren says sliding floor is expensive. I know how expensive sliding floor is. You know what I mean? It is expensive to build. However, depends on, as I said, depends on where you are. It matters. It's imperative that you have something like a slotted floor for the animals to get off the wet ground. If you're in goating, if you're coming in, we're telling you now, goats do not like wet ground. It is not good for them. It's not healthy for them. Goats should not be standing in mud or wet ground for long periods, especially if they're doing their droppings on that same surface. You're gonna end up with serious problems, hoof rot, all kinds of problems. So you have to get them off that wet ground. If you're on the south side, you don't get a lot of rain, and you come up with another solution apart from slotted floors. Um, so you got to think about where you are and how does it affect your facility, how the elements affect your facility. You know what I mean? Because we're on the northeast side, we know. Let me give you a real example of knowing your environment, knowing how the elements affect what you do. Our goat house, we completely turn it into a production facility. So the animals that are in the goat house are in some way in production phase, whether they're in the milk program, they have kids on them, they're about to kid less than a month, or our bucks, right? The the east northeast corner of the goat house only have mature animals on that side, because you guys know we have an octagon house. On that side, where the rain blows in, only mature animals are over there that can get take some wetting and all that stuff. The kidding pens and nurseries, everything is on the south and west side. All the nurseries are on that side. The south corner, the west side, all of them is on that side because the rain doesn't blow in on that side unless it's a storm or something. But regular rain, the wind is coming from the northeast. So it will blow in periodically and it will come in on the northeast side. The south and west side doesn't get that. And that's where our nurseries are. That's where all the young kids are. That's where they, and if you guys observe, our troughs are all on the inside of the house, the middle of the house. Troughs are always on the inside. There's no troughs on the northeast, north and the east side, northeast side of the house. They're not on that exterior wall. They're on the inside. So rain doesn't blow in and get to the troughs because of that reason. I don't want to be putting grain in or whatever it is, and next thing you know, rainfall and that's gone. No, all our troughs are on the inside. Even in the lounges, we make sure they're up against the inner part of the house. The lounge is against the wall of the house, so it's not on no external thing. Or the maintenance lounge have a good enough overhang from the deck that the rain can blow in and get to the set of troughs at the edge of the deck. So we take all that in consideration. Hence, I'm saying know your environment, know how the elements affect what you do. So think about that. I had a conversation with Peter once we left our farm yesterday, and I come to the consensus that in Jamaica, and Peter mentioned it too, like we overthink a lot of things or we prioritize the wrong things. Number one, if you're starting out, think about what your goals are. What is your objective? Do you want to just have 50 animals or do you want to have 200 animals, 500 animals? Then you got to position yourself to get to that point, whether it's via expansion as you go or you're going to build it and grow into it. You have to think about these things. I say we overthink these things because some of the facilities I see, limitation automatically comes into play based on how they built initially. You can see the limitations or the expense that's going to come into play if they decide to expand or if they decide to change how they do things. For our goat house, everything on the inside, all those divisions you see, those troughs, everything is screwed in. They're not nailed in, they're not permanent. The only things permanent is the hallways and the four isolation pens. We can't change those. We can't change the configuration of those. But yeah, Eris truly used the right word. That's why she's so smart. We have a modular system. So if people that go back and watch videos from the early days from 2019 when we just started, you can see where that there's a section there that was just wide open. I remember one of the first videos we posted when we had like 7 goats or something, 12 goats. Somebody say, "Yeah, nice. You just gotta grow into that now." And our initial impression is our initial thought process, like, yeah, we're just gonna put mothers in this section. It's gonna just fill it up with mothers. And then after observation, I realized, oh, really, it's not gonna work like that because I have to factor in aggressive females, docile females, weak females, sick females. The list goes on. So then I start getting to the nitty gritty of how our production system's gonna work, and I realize, oh, I can't just have these goats in this one big section because they're gonna be different stages of production, and I need to isolate them. I need to have more control over the production system. Hence, that big open area that was whole one side of the goat house now it's in 3 parts. It's in no four. It's in 4 part. One side actually has 3 sections, and then we turn the other side into a big nursery that's even more divided into individual kidding pen come kidding time, and the kidding pens can be taken down once kidding is over, and we turn that area into whether it's a group breeding area or whatever it is. So as Trudy said, it's a modular system. And having this discussion with y'all to say, when you start, are you thinking about it? Have these things in your head. Think about if if you decide to change how you do things, how hard is it gonna be to adjust your facility? You know what I mean? How hard is it gonna be for you to change a pen to facilitate four goats or five goats instead of two? Or how hard is it to change a space into isolation pen so you can deal with individual animals? Like say you do AI on 10 goats, and the recommendation is to put them into a stress-free area that they don't have to deal with other aggressive animals, etc. Do you have a space that you can divide up and say, okay, these two are two sisters, they live good together, they're not gonna fight. Okay, they can go into that area. This mother over here, she's just a terrorist, she's got to go into a pen by herself. Like, those are the things that I think about. Those are the things that truly points out to me, and I have to find is we have to come up with a solution for it. Hence, most of that goat houses, 90% of that goat house can be switched around by just a drill and undo those screws and move stuff. Even the troughs, I can unscrew and take off troughs and put them somewhere else. Troughs that are in the maintenance lounge was once up in the goat house. Take them down and we're shifting things around and say, okay, we're gonna put these downstairs in the maintenance lounge because there's no space for them up in the goat house now that we reconfigure to facilitate the milking mothers and all that. Like, you have to take these things into consideration. So, do you build a goat house where all the goats are locked inside? I don't think it's the ideal situation. I think based on what I've learned and what I've seen over the years, I think the ideal situation for growth and expansion and efficiency and all that is have a area that you can do your kidding safely, comfortably. But once animals are not in that phase, then you should have like an open shed, of course, because you can do that because you have a secure fence for that facility. So you can have an open shed area where the goats eat, go on a deck. If you're in a rainy area, they can sleep on the deck or go on the deck in the rainy thing, and then your troughs and stuff will be up on the deck or something. And so then you can actually have safer animals, healthier animals, animals that are physically fit because they got the space to walk around, move around. The effect from aggressive animals are less because animals have space to get away, stay away. Then you have the groups that will just say, "Oh yeah, this is my clique. This is all we hang out over here. Those guys over there, they're not really part of my thing, but so they'll be over there." Like, I observe my goats. I observe our goats and I see the clique. I see the grouping. Kids that come up together, grew up together. Even when they go to the maintenance lounge, they still stick together. You know what I mean? So the beauty of the maintenance lounge is like they can be way over here by themselves, and then the next group or different groups can be over there, and every night they go in, you go every evening they go in and you go back there when they settled, you see they're always in the same areas. They stick to the people that not gonna bother them, not gonna, you know, rough them up. Yeah. So take these things into I think it's cheaper, it's safer, it's healthier, it's more efficient, and it's more practical. I will use, I'll give you an example. And I'm not saying this, it's not the first time I'm saying this. I've had an opportunity to visit Damian Crawford facility. He has a massive facility. And I've had this conversation with him. So this is not news. I've talked about this on this platform. He has a massive facility, a well built facility. But the challenge that I see and that I've pointed out to him is efficiency. You got to remember, he's looking at getting to 1,000 animals. Now, how do you service 1,000 animals without access to without the ability to access that facility with equipment? If it's the rainy season as it is in St. Mary where we are, and Mr. Crawford facilities in St. Mary, 10 minutes from us. If it's a rainy time and those animals can go out to graze, which is, the suggestion is they shouldn't go out to graze, you have to feed them. How do you feed them? How do you feed them if you don't have an efficient access to feed them? If you're coming in to the business and you have that grandiose idea, the number one thing on your mind should be how efficient, how efficient can you make this? How accessible is the important areas when that house is to capacity? How efficient is it gonna be to feed 500, 1,000 goats within a appropriate time period? And I'm sure if you guys go on YouTube, you may see the outlay of that facility, and then you will have a better understanding of what I'm saying. I'll point out some of the deficiencies that I see. And I'm saying this with all due respect. Like Damien knows, Sir Crawford knows, I've had this conversation with him. Everybody that comes in to the goat business, including us, you go about things the way you think you want to do it. And then you learn along the way that, oh, some of these things are not a good idea. And he will tell you what I'm about to tell you was not a good idea. The goat house, he has two massive goat house, and they're about 6, 7 feet off the ground. And the troughs are on the outside, like 90% of the goat house them in Jamaica. So you think about it right now. Everybody on here, think about it. The goat house is about 6, 7 feet off the ground. You can walk underneath that thing and put your hand up, and you maybe some parts you can't touch the, the bottom of the goat house. But the troughs are on the outside. Y'all know the outside troughs, right? They're on the outside. And the hallway, know that some of the thing is divided up. The hallway is about 3 feet wide or something. How do you feed those animals if they all have to stay in, right? How do you feed them? Hold on. You can't feed these animals efficiently if that place is to capacity and the troughs are on the outside and it's 6 feet off the ground. No, there's fixes to it, right? There's fixes to it. So it's not all is not lost, but it's an extra cost after the fact. So I'm pointing that out because people got to think about how they build their facility moving forward, take these things into consideration. Think about it. If and I'm telling you guys this because I see it. Most goat house and the goat house of them tell people to build and show you the models. These troughs are on the outside. You guys see it. Tell me, give me a thumbs up if you think if you agree with me, or give me a thumbs down if you think I'm wrong. Like, let's engage in this. Am I wrong? How many of these goat houses you see that they suggest that people build over the years that the troughs are on the outside? I never understood that concept. I remember when we were starting out, we talked to all these people and they send us these models of goat houses. We already knew what we were gonna do based on through these concepts, right? So for who is new here, let me tell you how Carber Ranch works. Judy has the inspiration of how she wants things to look because of our objective is an agritourism destination based on goats. So there's certain aesthetics and things that I don't have the eye for. Trudy has the eye for it. She wants it a certain way. She tells me we have a discussion. If it's doable, no problem. If I think it's not efficient, it's not doable, we come up with a compromise. That's why we have an octagon house. No trough is on the outside, as I said earlier, because to me it's not efficient. It doesn't make sense. If it's rainy season, especially in where we are, how do we feed these animals efficiently? If you got to give grain and it's raining, where you putting this grain? Knowing that your trough is a multi-use trough. Where do you put the grain when rain are blowing and I wet up everything? Yeah, and I'm telling you, I can find pictures right now and post them on this thing. I can go online right now and bring up any one of those houses, and you'll see the troughs are on the outside. No joke. Most of them. My good friend Mackie, original house. You see, and his house is like way off the ground, and there's troughs all along the outside of that house because they told him that's how it should be built. Now Mackie has a wide. He's retrofit his house now, and his pathways is a hallway in the house is wide enough. Now he put troughs on the inside. You know what I mean? He's changed his concept, his way of thinking about this, and don't listen to people. and realize, oh yeah, I don't make no sense. Make no sense. And everywhere you go, you see it. You go to Bodles, no, it's not Bodles, it's the next one that's further down. What's it called, Judy? And they had these model houses showing Hounslow. Yeah. Model houses showing how you should do it, all on the outside. Their concept is, oh, you just go and you put the feed in from outside and it's no problem. Yeah, it is a major problem. You know what I mean? It is a major problem. When it rains, especially where we are, when it rains, it's a wrap. So, with that said, I'm saying think about it before you start, plan it out. Don't just go, oh, I'm going to build this little one and then I'm just going to add on to it, whatever. No, think about your grand idea at the end, what it should be, and start accordingly. I think on this platform before, I showed you guys our original plan. And you can see where we are now. It's just one section left to fill out that original plan. You know what I mean? Those lounges were already in the original plan. Of course, they've been changed of how we do it, but the concept of animals utilizing those spaces was already in the plan. How we use the spaces may change a bit because there was a section for just bucks hanging out, and there's a section where it's just maintenance with mothers, and then there's a section for weaners and all that stuff. But we've changed it when our focus shift and we've learned about how to make the system more efficient to tighten up our production system. We've changed how we do it. Now the whole back end of that goat house is maintenance mothers because we can now put 100 females back there comfortably. You know what I mean? So I'm telling you guys, if you're starting, if you're in the middle of it, adjust your thought process with the big picture in mind. Think about it. Adjust your thought process with the big picture in mind. Thing says trough should be in the passageway. Um, our troughs are not in the passageway. They're on the inside wall of the passageway. And our concept of that, and you know what? If I had to do it differently now that I think about it, maybe I would have put the troughs on the I'll find a way to put the troughs on the outside. The reason our troughs are on the inside is because they're multi-purpose troughs. They they're hay feeder and grain. So that's why they're on the inside. The way they're built is that we can have hay stacked in it and we can put grain or shaft grass in the bottom of it. I know people who have people who have seen it will understand it. That's why they're on the inside wall of the hallway. We have a double side trough that separates the big area so animals can eat on both sides. And it's the same concept of there's a trough at the bottom and there's the hay feeder that we, to stack hay or just cut grass can go stacked in it and they can pull out and eat as they go. So it's a multi-purpose feeding trough, hence it's on the inside wall. It depends on your application, really. You know what I mean? For us, it works well because we can actually do that, put hay in there, and it's not a problem for them to get to it. And if we are in a rush and have to Like kind of, I use the example. If it's a Sunday and we're going to church and we just need to feed the animals and get going, then it's easy for us to service the animals and don't get messy, and it doesn't get messy. You know what I mean? And it keeps our hallway clean and thing. They can make all the mess in their pen. You know what I mean? And I'd rather take the hay and or grass leaves and all them things go drop in where they are than in the hallway. The way the troughs are built, like the way Mackie built his troughs, it doesn't create any mess in the hallway, but it uses up hallway space. You know what I mean? But so the troughs in the hallway uses up hallway space. But it's 601 doesn't 601 half dozen of the other. You know what I mean? It's gonna use up space anyway. So it depends on how much space you have and how you want to utilize that space. So I'm just saying that our troughs is multi-purpose, hence they're on the inside. So you know what I mean? Do whatever works best for you. Yeah. Um so the idea is think long term. Think about the long term goals of what you want to do. If anybody has questions on what I'm talking about with our troughs, you can easily just go to one of those videos and you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see how the troughs are. Um, I don't know if I have any videos readily available that I can share at this time, but let me see. I'm going through my phone and see if I have any videos I can share. The easiest thing to do is to actually just go to our page and you'll see. I think one of the videos I shared, uh, yeah, hold on. I'm going to share something with y'all. I'm going to share, see if I can do this. If I am, if I am, what they call it, savvy enough to do this. Share screen. One second. I'm trying to get to it, folks. Trying to get to it. I'm gonna share a picture. I'm trying to get these pictures that I can share. And once I can share these pictures, then you guys will see what I'm talking about. Oh man, this thing is saying I have to go get permission. I have to create the permission to share it. That sucks. I can't go back in the background to share this thing. That sucks. Why would it want me to do that? It's my it's my laptop. Please update system permission to allow screen recording for the browser. Oh, that's what's going on. I didn't give Chrome permission to use my lap anything outside of Chrome. All right, I can't. I don't want to take the time to do that. So, but if you go to the to any of our videos, you will see how our troughs are designed and hence the way they're installed. You know what I mean? It's too bad I have all these restrictions on Chrome. But you know how it is. These softwares and these things will be going in on your laptop and taking information you don't want them to take. So that's why I have restrictions on it. Any questions on that? If you have any questions on that, just shoot it off before I move on. And all the latecomers, people who join us late, welcome. Always good to have you. Okay, all right. So next thing is what I'm thinking is how do you decide what your feeding program's gonna be? How are you gonna decide that? The way we approached it is we made a decision on what our facility was gonna be like, what our production system is gonna be before we actually started. So then we seek out a a place that would actually facilitate that. If you plan to graze, then you should put your operation where you can graze. If you are gonna say, okay, I'm gonna start this based on what I have, then you design your production system based on what you have or what you have access to and stick to the limitation of what you have. You know what I mean? You can't have a space that can only facilitate 25 animals healthy, safely, and then figure you're going to go to 100. It's not practical. It doesn't make sense. You're going to either have to move or you're going to have to spend the money for the extra input to facilitate moving from 25 to 100 or 25 to 50. So when you're starting out, think about that. Or if you're already in it and you think you want to scale up, then do you have the space to scale up? Do you have the inputs readily available to scale up? Inputs mean feed, input mean water, all those things. Do you have that readily available to you to scale up? Do you have the resources? You know, can you actually expand your facility to increase your numbers? Or you're just gonna increase the numbers and make it work? That's not practical. You know, you have to think about that. So off the top, I actually said, if you want to go to, if you're thinking of having 500 animals, 200 animals, then you can start out and grow into it. Build a facility for that and grow into it. Or you put yourself in a position where expansion, you have the space for expansion, you have the resources for expansion, you have access to the inputs for expansion. You know, you have to think about that. You have to keep that in the forefront of your mind that, oh, my objective, the end game is to get to 200 animals. Then you put yourself in a position to do that. Start your facility at a space to do that. Or you can say, okay, I'm going to start now. And then in the meantime, I'm going to look for a bigger space to move everything to. But I need to get some experience under my belt. So then you can easily say, okay, in my backyard, I'm going to put 25. And then I can learn how to deal with them, how to, you know, feed them, how to take care of them. And then in a couple years, I'm gonna find a spot where I can build something for 100 goats, 200 goats, whatever it is. But the worst thing you can do is overstock. Then you end up with a major problems. You end up with sick animals. You end up with dying animals. It just becomes a mess, and then you start to hate the whole process. You start not enjoying the process, and then you decide to say, yo, I'm not doing this no more. You know what I mean? Why you think a lot of people get in, and after 3 or 4 years they're like, yo, I'm not doing this, this don't make no sense, because they're not doing it within their means. You know what I mean? It's all fun when you're doing 10 goats, 25 goats. But then you say, yo, I want to go up to 100 goats. And then it becomes a nightmare because your facility and your system is not designed to deal with 100 goats. You know, you can, I don't know how many people in here know what the square footage, recommended square footage is per animal in an intensive system. Intensive meaning they're always in the goat house. Put it in here in the comments if you know what the recommended square footage is. Whether it's 5 by 5 space, 10 by 10 space, 10 by 20 space, what it is. What you think it is. Mr. Makuk said 20 square feet. Maybe you should put dimensions instead of square footage because people understand that better. German said 4 by 5. Wrong. 4 by 5 space is a temporary space. So if you got a sick animal, 4 by 5 may work for that animal. But if the animal is gonna be in there permanently, 4 by 5 is not enough. That's a prison. Any other suggestions? Let's get into it. Let's see. Come on. I assume that there's a lot of goat farmers in here, so I should be seeing a lot of answers. It tells me that a lot of people in here really don't know. Okay, so let me break this down based on many different suggestions and inputs from professionals or experienced people. 20 square foot is appropriate and suggested if that's the permanent space for the animal. If the animal does not leave that space on a regular basis, I'm not talking about go and exercise 2, 3 times a week or whatever it is. I'm talking about, people lock their box away on a regular basis, right? Like just a buck pen. That's an appropriate, ideal square footage. You can get away with less than that if you know that you can give the animal a lot of exercise 2, 3 times a week or whatever it is. Um, Kiran 5x5 cannot be a permanent space. You got to get the animals out of there on a regular basis for exercise for to keep that animal healthy. You know what I mean? Anything less than 10x10, animals need to be exercised on a regular basis because the animal needs to be able to move around, do stuff. So if what I mean, if the animal is going out every day to graze and come back in, then what I mean, that can work. 7x5 can work. 6x6 can work. Any number of those combinations can work, right? But if the animal is permanently in that space and you don't have the ability to put that animal out in a yard to exercise on a regular basis, 1 time a week, 2 times a week, then you need a little extra space for the animal to move around. So, with that in mind, if you're thinking about an intensive system where animals do not go out and you don't even have the space for them to walk around and go and stuff, then you're limited on how many animals you can have. You're completely limited. It's not even a question. It's just based on the numbers and what's healthy and comfortable for the animals. So you got to think about that too. That's another factor in starting out, or if you're in the middle of it, how do you make this work? Now, with that said, if you're limited to 35 animals, that dictates what your focus should be in the goat business. It dictates, are you into meat? Are you into milk? Are you into value added products? Are you a tourism destination? I can tell you that 35 goat is not ideal. Let's say 35 females is not ideal for meat. Like it's like just the numbers alone tell you if you have to supply meat to two restaurant or one restaurant or a boutique hotel or just on a regular basis to your community, how often are you gonna have bulk links or bulk to process to service your clients if you only have 35 animals? So if you have 35 animals, then you got to think about what your objective is. Not all is lost. 35 animals. If you have 35 good milking females, yo, you're in big business with the milk. If you have really good milking females, you can do a lot because you can do value added products or you can just supply a processor with milk. And then the offsprings you can sell as to small farmers or process them when they are ready for market or whatever it is. But if you're full, if you have minimum minimal space, limited space, you can only house 35 animals, 25 animals. Then you got to shift your focus to how you can get the most out of those animals. What direction do you go? What should be your focus to get the most return out of those animals? And oh, Jamaica, Marius is talking about bucks. Jamaicans love have amazing looking bucks. But there you go. How many bucks you really need to service 25 females or 30 females? You really only need one. Like, surprisingly, and this is a little tidbit of information, the farm you went to yesterday, they change their buck every year. The buck that's currently there, the lady says she loves the buck so much, she's gonna keep the buck for 2 years. But every year they change their buck. Every year because of their breeding practices. It's mind blowing. I couldn't even like fathom like, okay, so you buy this buck 4 months ago or 5 months ago, grow out the buck to get it ready to breed for breeding season, which is gonna be in the fall. So that buck she has now is gonna service in the fall, and then she's gonna sell them once the breeding season is over. Ideally, she would sell them and get another one. It's crazy. And I'm looking at Samson. I can't picture myself getting rid of Samson anytime soon. But if I'm serious about this, then Samson shouldn't be. I shouldn't be emotionally attached to Samson. I should think about, okay, what's best for the operation. Is Samson sticking around for another year, 2 years? Is it best for the operation? No, it's not. As much as I love him, as much as it's true this baby, or used to be true this baby, because no, she don't go nowhere near him. Is it best for the operation? No. The objective is to keep improving on every breeding season. Samson look good on your farm. You go and run off your mouth, but Samson look good on your farm. If Samson go on the market, why man, I tell you, that's gonna be a little money. Truly, let's drink to that. It may be on the market next year. Really, truly, straight talk. If I can get an improved, a better buck than Samson, which would be the objective, then why not? But anyways, let's stick to what we're talking about. Seriously, these are the things people should keep in mind when you're starting, when you're already in it. And mind you, we've made our mistakes. You guys know that. We tell you guys everything. We've made our mistakes. We made like we got into this thing because of milk products. And we take suggestions and advice from people when really and truly we should have just stuck to our guns. I would have rather had like 35 really good milking goats than to have some 20. Right now in our herd, we have like maybe 20%, 25% that's mediocre. You got another 25% that's average when it comes to milk production, I'm talking about. Then, you know what I mean? Like the breakdown is ridiculous. I would have rather have half the number of animals we have, but they're high yielding milk producers. Like the yield, the milk production, I wish we had stuck to our conviction and said, "Yo, we're not gonna compromise. We're just gonna seek out good milking goats and we're gonna buy them instead of buying whatever." Because people say, "Oh yeah, that's the way to start. Just get animals. Just get some animals and get it on the." No, it's not the best approach. If you're into meat and your objective is meat, stock your farm with animals that's going to give you good meat to bone ratio. You're ahead of the game instead of trying to create it. There's a lot of graded animals in Jamaica that will give you good meat to bone ratio. The conversation about breeding up from native and all them things is like just killing time. I'm going to be honest. The native play a part in Jamaica, but if you're into business and you really want this to be a viable business, I'm not gonna hold back my talk. A native goat not do you no good unless you're doing it for hobby. You just want to know how to take care of goats. That could be an approach. If you say, "Yo, I'm gonna take a year and figure out how to take care of goats before I really jump into the focus and implement my business model," then that's an approach. But if you're jumping in thinking that, "Yo, I want to figure out," like I'll use us for example because I can talk with conviction about what we do. I know what other people do for the most part. I had enough research to know how to set up the farm. Dealing with the animals is a learning curve. But let's say we bought, instead of buying whatever, we bought 10, 15 good milk goats, right? And I say, okay, I'm going to learn how to take care of these animals, how to deal with the milk, get a year under our belts, and then we start expanding. We would have been further ahead with our milk program than we are today. Darren says you've seen natives throw kids that rival bigger breeds. Well, how do they? What do you put on that native to rival the other breed? Do you put a native buck on it to do it, or do you put a graded buck or a full blood buck? Let's keep this in context. Simple. If you have time on your hands, of course you can go down that road. But we all know time is money. You know what I mean? I'm not. Straight talk is like, of course you can put a full blood buck on a native and get some nice kids, but how far, or like, if you buy a graded female and put that buck on that graded female, don't you think you get better results? You know what I mean? Like real talk. I'm not getting into them conversations about native because native is habbiting. And I anybody wants to challenge me, come. Native don't produce enough milk. And if you see a native that's producing a lot of milk, that's not a pure native. That got something else in it. Because traditionally, natives don't produce that kind of milk. It's real. Let's keep it real. And sometimes people, you know, see a native and don't think can differentiate a native between a native and an alpine, or you know what I mean, like they just don't know the difference. So I really don't get into that discussion really. So I'm keeping it real. I'm telling people straight that don't waste your time on listening to people about, yeah, start off with some native. If you're in it for business, do not start off with a native. The native's not going to do anything for you more than give you experience in dealing with goats. So if you have some time to burn, or if you want to say, yo, I'm going to get 5 native, figure out how it works, whatever, then you can go ahead. But if you're serious and say, yo, I really want to figure this out, get 15 of the animals you want to go in, whether it's milk or meat, get some graded, build your system from there, figure out how you want to build your system out from those 15 or whatever animals, and build out from there. Do not waste your time. Buy the animals that suits your that suits your objective. Don't do what we did. It's a mistake. You know what I mean? So Conrad is asking what grade is ideal for a new farm. It's not a Conrad is not about the grade. It's about what you want for your farm. Are you going to meat? Are you going to milk? If you're going to meat, then graded animals, F2, F3, whatever, look at the animal and see, okay, for females, graded females that you're going to put a full blood boar buck on, because what you want is the meat. You want animals that's gonna give you more meat to bone ratio. You want animals that's gonna give you 45, 50% meat upon processing. You don't want to drop below the 45%, 42%. Like ideally, you want to be 51, 52%. When you process the animal, you should get good 51, 52% meat. You know what I mean? So stick to it. It is a slower process, but really and truly, you're spending less and you get more out of your spend. If you're going into milk, just go and seek out milk animals that are producing a lot of milk. It's just the way it is. I'm telling people the truth. Because if we did that instead of listening to what people said and the advice, because we think they've been it in a long time, they know what they're talking about. Don't make the same mistake we did. If you go in it for meat, get animals that's gonna give you what you need. If you go in it for milk, get animals gonna give you some milk. And then you learn from early how to milk the goat, how to process the milk, how the whole process of harvesting the milk, what to do with the milk. You know what I mean? If you only have 5 females, 10 females that are giving you a good amount of milk, that is like instant revenue. Instant. With a good business model, whether you're making soap, milk, soap, lotion, shampoo, cheese, whatever it is instant and constant. Think about you can milk a goat for 8 months after she kid. And the only way the good milkers, the only way you need to stop milking them is because you bred them and you have to dry them off 3 months before 3 months, 2 months before they kit, or 3 months before they kit, so they can replenish and create colostrum. I don't want nobody coming in make the same mistakes. We can't keep repeating the same mistakes and starting from scratch. The whole idea of iGoat chat and platform that we're doing here is to eliminate those mistakes. Tell people come in knowing what you want to do. I don't even know why I get into production and all that stuff when we're talking about housing. But I guess, housing transition into facility, transition into production system. Yeah, it encompasses everything, you know what I mean? So that's my objective, is to let people know that think outside the box, stick to your conviction, stick to what you believe. Do not, like, your gut feeling of why you get into it, why you want to get into it. If you do your research and come up with a plan, a business model, do not sway from it. Do not sway from it, because it's not going to be as efficient as you would like it. And you'll start hating it because you're not getting what you want out of it. You know what I mean? So don't, just stick to what you believe in, stick to why you get into it, and get the necessary parts to complement why you're in it. If you want meat, get animals that will give you good meat to bone ratio. If you want milk, get animals that's going to give you high yields on milk. That's it. And I've been talking a lot for an hour and a half. So I guess if you have any questions, shoot them now, because I'm going to try to end this shortly. Yeah. If you have any questions or any concerns, or if something wasn't clear, now is the time to ask the question, and I will clarify or give you some advice based on Cabra Ranch experience. If there's no questions, then I'm gonna sign out. um, the question is, are we bringing any products to Denby? Trudy, are we bringing products to Denby? There you go. She's working on it. Yeah. Hey, yo, guys, Trudy made some cheese, and I haven't tried the cheese, but I've had associates and friends that went to visit, and I'm getting like just rave reviews on this cheese. Amazing. Like, I don't know. I think she's onto something. So I'm hoping that I get to taste the cheese. I'll be back on the farm soon, so I get to taste the cheese. No, she got some aging. What? Remember, our objective is to actually have something on the market by the end of the year. And no joke, Judy been putting in the work. She's been putting in the work. She's even working with some experts. So I'm excited. I don't know what I need to do to support it, how I can help her, but I think I have some ideas on packaging. I don't know nothing about making the cheese, but maybe I can contribute on the packaging. Darren, if you stumble on some face soap thing, you just talk to Trudy. Trudy have all of them face soap, lotion, all of that stuff. She's been doing it for a minute. Hence why we're in this goat business. If when things get tough and the question is like, um, whose idea was this? And guess who the question always come from? The question always come from the person who had the idea and looking at me like, whose idea was this again? Like, don't talk to me. Don't look over here. um, see, Peter Maku just want free cheese and free samples, but I'll be a tester for free. We're gonna start charging people for testing. Hello, Peter. You know you can come through anytime you want, bro. Yeah. So that's the objective. It took us a while to get to this point, and we've learned a lot. I think, for the people here who are believers, why you are planning gotta have a different plan. What I mean, the whole I think now that I think about what we've gone through, what we've done as Cabra Ranch, maybe our biggest asset at this point is being open with people and sharing. Leon, Leon, don't say that. Do not say that, Bridget, because you stopped by and with your friend, and I said you're welcome back anytime. You just got a link and say, "Yo, I'm coming through," and you come through. So don't say that. May have receipts, bro. We have receipts. You came by one time. You were coming from Paji Beach or something with your friend, and I told you you're welcome to come back anytime. Just link us and say you're gonna come through, and you can come through, and everything good. So don't say that. I have receipts. Me no know nobody we can say Cabra Ranch turn them way. Not no go so. Um, yeah. So I think most our biggest contribution to the space, to the sector, is sharing information. And I think based on the fact that we weren't able to execute in a timely manner on the initial um, goal, but in the meantime, we were able to positively contribute to the sector with sharing information and giving people, the platform to share. But the next step, the next level is to actually execute what our initial goal was. So, for the faithfuls, for the people who believe and appreciate what we do, we give thanks and keep us in your prayers because we're faithful people over here. We believe strongly, and we'll continue sharing, and hopefully this year we'll put something on the shelf. It may be a virtual shelf, it may be a physical shelf, it may be on your plate via an establishment, a culinary establishment. We'll do a thing. You know what I mean? So give thanks and blessings. And I rock a lot and shake through this like, yo, you're making me dizzy. I don't know why I do this, but it's horrible. But give thanks, folks, and thank you for coming through. And if there's no more question, I'm gonna sign out and go pack up my stuff. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Good night and see you guys next week, hopefully. And whoever is going to Denby, we're gonna be at Denby. We will be at Denby. And I'm going to Denby, and you guys already know who I support in competition, so I'm not have to send nothing more. But I will be at Denby, so we should start doing a countdown to Denby. Hold on, before I sign out, let me get this message out there. I said, can you that if you say time is money, you purchase 20 native, it's gonna take you a long time to generate any money. False advertise when it comes into this business that is quick money. But the 20, yep, you guys can read it for yourself. Waste of time, bro. If you want to learn how to deal with goat, then get some native. But if you're really serious about business, stay away from the natives. You know what I mean? KC said, I love to get rid of all of them. I don't believe that, but everybody have them opinion. All right, folks. See you guys next week. And thank you all for coming. Thank you for being here. We appreciate each and every one. Enough blessings. Enjoy the rest of the weekend and little more. Which day they'll be judging goats? They'll be judging goats on the Sunday. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. On the Sunday, the Saturday they're judging sheep, on the Sunday they're judging goats. All right. Later. See you guys. Bye. I'm out.